With the 12th pick, the New York Giants select Odell Beckham.
The 2014 NFL Draft feels like it was only yesterday, and yet here we are talking about guys who have now been in the league for almost a decade. Odell Beckham Jr. became one of the brightest stars of the 2014 Draft when his career took off in New York. But who was drafted ahead of him? The young Giants receiver went from a rookie wideout to an international sensation almost overnight, and that one catch against the Dallas Cowboys will remain locked in as one of the greatest, if not the greatest catch of all time in the history of the NFL. That catch got Odell's career started. That night he emerged, and he would eventually post 4 superb seasons in 5 years as a member of the Giants and an explosive target for Eli Manning. OBJ was a late entrant to the Rams Super Bowl push during the 2021 season, but he made a serious impact on that team down the stretch and caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl before leaving the game with a knee injury. He helped the Rams to win it all that year and added a Super Bowl ring to his 2 second-team All-Pro selections and 3 Pro Bowl appearances, as well as winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. Odell has had a great career up until this point, although hampered by injuries in more recent years, but he was still particularly good for the Giants in those first few seasons. While he might have made a serious impact for the team that drafted him, he was the 12th pick and the 3rd wide receiver selected. The debate that year was over who was expected to be the better prospect on the defensive side of the ball. Jadeveon Clowney had that truly outrageous hit while playing at South Carolina that sent a running back's helmet flying, and his hype only continued to grow as the NFL draft drew closer. It was either him or Khalil Mack on the defensive side, while tackles Greg Robinson and Jake Matthews both made their case as top draft picks. Houston had the number 1 pick that year and ended up selecting Clowney to join J.J. Watt and form one of the scariest defensive fronts in football. Clowney missed the majority of his rookie season after an early injury that year and returned the following season with an ambition to make up for lost time. His career in Houston was good, with flashes of greatness, but it was never quite elite. The young defensive end took plenty of criticism for his work ethic on the field, sometimes taking plays off, and while he had moments of excellence, he only spent 5 years in Houston before being traded to Seattle. Since then, he is featured for 3 franchises, including the Seahawks, Titans, and Browns. He's managed 9 sacks twice in his career and reached 9.5 once, but that's the ceiling of his career, and now at the age of 30, he finds himself a free agent once again. Clowney made it to 3 Pro Bowls during the height of his prime between 2016 and 2018, as well as earned second-team All-Pro honors in the 2016 season. The second overall pick was Greg Robinson, an offensive tackle out of Auburn. The St. Louis Rams needed a new franchise tackle as they looked to build for the future, and Robinson was expected to be the answer. Fast forward to 2016, Robinson showed up to camp out of shape and over 15 pounds heavier than he was supposed to be, setting the tone for an eventual downfall. By week 11, he was a healthy scratch, and the following year the Rams had enough and traded him to a desperate Lions team. Midway through the season, he was cut by Detroit too, and after trying one last time with the Cleveland Browns, his career was over by 2019. Sadly, Robinson got into trouble multiple times with drugs. His biggest charge came in 2022, when he was pulled over with a heavy amount of drugs in his car. Upon further inspection of his properties, a reported $120,000 worth of drugs were found. Robinson was charged with felony possession with intent to distribute cocaine, crack cocaine, meth, and other substances. Moving on to the number 3 pick, Jacksonville selected UCF quarterback Blake Bortles. 2014 was not considered to be one of the strongest quarterback classes, but Bortles had a lot of likable traits among NFL scouts, and the Jaguars were happy to take him when the opportunity presented itself. Bortles' career in Jacksonville came with almighty highs and crushing lows, peaking with the stunning 2017 run to the AFC Championship game. The Jags came within inches of making it to the Super Bowl, which could have made this a very different story on the career of Bortles in Jacksonville, but that turned out to be the very best of him. Bortles spent just 5 seasons as an NFL starter and never returned to the playoffs again. He was most recently with Green Bay and New Orleans in 2021 and announced his retirement in 2022. The 4th pick of the 2014 draft signaled the first wide receiver taken off the board in what was considered a very talented class of receiving weapons. The Buffalo Bills chose Sammy Watkins. The rookie out of Clemson had 2 great years to start his career in the NFL, falling just 18 yards short of a 1,000-yard season as a rookie, and surpassing that number with 1,047 yards and 9 touchdowns in his second year, despite only starting 13 games. Buffalo fans thought they'd found a superstar, and the excitement for Sammy Watkins after that 2015 campaign was real. But sadly, that was when he peaked. He missed the first half of the following year with a foot injury, and was traded after the season to the LA Rams. He spent 1 season there before moving on to Kansas City, where the highlight of his career flashed during the 2019 playoffs. Watkins caught 7 passes for 114 yards and a touchdown against the Titans in the AFC Championship game, and then went for 98 yards in a crucial catch late in Super Bowl 54, helping Patrick Mahomes and company bring a title to Kansas City for the first time in 50 years. Since then, Watkins has moved around a little, playing supporting roles in Baltimore and Green Bay. He's currently a free agent. The Raiders have caught a bad rap in recent years for their drafting abilities, and rightly so, with multiple terrible drafts that support that point. But in 2014, they got it right and came away as one of the biggest winners in the top 10. The Raiders selected Mack out of Buffalo, and what a player he became. Mack became one of the most destructive edge rushers in the NFL, overwhelming offensive tackles with a blend of speed and power that often led to him destroying the quarterback. In his second year, he exploded onto the scene, with 15 sacks and 23 tackles for loss, while accumulating 77 tackles and 2 forced fumbles, and the following year, he was named the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. He posted 3 straight seasons with 10+ sacks in Oakland, and in 2018, after holding out for a new contract, the Raiders decided to trade him in a blockbuster deal with the Chicago Bears. His fine form continued in that 2018 season, but he slowed down a little after that, and with Chicago beginning a rebuild, it became clear that he was being somewhat wasted on a struggling roster. In 2022, he was traded again, this time to the LA Chargers. Mack is a 4-time first-team All-Pro, a 7-time Pro Bowler, and of course, the NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and he boasts a career that is worthy of a spot in Canton, Ohio. Next, the Falcons' focus in the 2014 draft was protecting Matt Ryan. They had the weapons they wanted. Ryan was playing at a high level, and the offensive line needed to improve so that they could put it all together. Jake Matthews was the answer, and the Falcons picked the Texas A&M prospect with the 6th overall pick. As it turns out, they got it right, and Matthews remains with the Falcons through 2023. He made a Super Bowl appearance and has been a solid and consistent tackle in the NFL for the majority of his career as a pro. After Jake Matthews was selected, the very next pick was a teammate of his at Texas A&M, Mike Evans. Evans became the 2nd wide receiver off the board and an exciting pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who loved the blend of size, speed, and power that Mike Evans brought to the wide receiver position. He was the biggest and meanest receiver among the top pass catchers that year, and Tampa Bay added some much-needed help to their offense. Looking at his career in 2023, what he's been able to do so far is incredible. In 9 years in the NFL, Mike Evans has managed 9 straight 1,000-yard seasons while catching 85 touchdowns. As a result, he holds the record for the most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons to start an NFL career. He's also the youngest player to reach 6,000 and 7,000 receiving yards, and the youngest player to manage both 5 and 6 1,000-yard seasons. He boasts a long list of Tampa Bay Buccaneers franchise records and has consistently been one of the league's best receivers for almost a decade. Evans won Super Bowl 55 with Tom Brady and boasts 4 Pro Bowl appearances and an All-Pro selection in his career so far. Cleveland drafted Johnny Manziel 22nd overall in 2014, and we all know how that turned out, but they drafted cornerback Justin Gilbert before that, selecting him with the 8th pick, and somehow that pick was worse. The Browns traded up from 9 to 8 in order to make the pick, which became one of the worst busts of the entire class. Gilbert was expected to be a lockdown corner coming out of Oklahoma State, where he'd been a consensus All-American and a member of the first-team All-Big 12 in his 4th and final season. As it turned out, Gilbert played just 2 years with the Browns before being traded to the rival Pittsburgh Steelers, who released him the following year. After failing to make an impact with 2 franchises in 3 years, Gilbert was on the verge of his career being over in a hurry. When he failed a drug test and was suspended for a year for violating the league's substance abuse policy, that was the end of that. He never played another down in the league and managed just 1 interception in his pro career. Let's take a moment of silence for Browns fans. Back at it. Anthony Barr was another name on the list of available top-tier defensive talent in the 2014 draft, and Minnesota had moved down 1 spot after trading with Cleveland and still got their guy. Barr was remarkably athletic for a 6'5" linebacker and had actually spent the first 2 seasons of his college career at UCLA playing on offense. He was a running back, a tight end, and a wide receiver, but he made the switch to linebacker prior to his junior year. After 2 years on defense, he had turned into one of the hottest prospects in college football, flying around the field to make crushing tackles and get sacks in the backfield. In fact, in his very first year playing outside linebacker, Barr racked up 13.5 sacks, good for the 2nd highest total in all of college football that year. Barr did turn out to be a great pick for them too, combining with Eric Kendricks to form a very talented linebacker group. Barr was selected to the Pro Bowl for 4 straight seasons between 2015 and 2018, but played more of an outside linebacker role as opposed to rushing the passer as a pro. He spent 8 years in Minnesota, picking up a total of 17.5 sacks and almost 500 combined tackles. Now a veteran in the league and having spent the 2022 season with the Dallas Cowboys, Barr is now a free agent and looking for a team for 2023. While not a wide receiver, Ebron marked the third pass catcher to be selected ahead of Odell, being selected 10th overall by the Detroit Lions. Ebron was a pass-catching tight end out of North Carolina and seemed like a great fit for a Detroit Lions offense that was keen to add another high-caliber pass catcher. He was a little slow out of the gate as a rookie, but in years 2, 3, and 4, contributed over 500 receiving yards each year and 10 total touchdowns. Ebron was good, but he wasn't elite, and the Lions released him in 2018 after 4 seasons with the franchise. It was then that he'd manage his Pro Bowl season, joining the Indianapolis Colts and quarterback Andrew Luck. The offense under Luck's command was one of the greatest in the league, and Ebron benefited from that with a stunning 13 touchdowns while picking up 750 receiving yards. And of course, after that season, Andrew Luck called it a day, and Ebron was never able to find that miraculous form again. He spent a couple of seasons in Pittsburgh, and after surrendering the starting role, he called it a day, having last played in 2021. Finally, the last pick before Odell Beckham Jr. was drafted 12th overall by the New York Giants was tackle Taylor Lewin, who just retired in the summer of 2023. Lewin was drafted by the Tennessee Titans out of Michigan, making him the third tackle selected in the draft at that point. Considered a hothead at times and one that was never afraid to stand up for his teammates when things got chippy out on the field, Taylor Lewin was also a very solid offensive lineman for several years during his playing career. He earned 3 Pro Bowl appearances in his prime between 2016 and 2018, contributing a leading role to the Titans' dangerous ground game and the emergence of Derrick Henry. While Odell was then drafted 12th overall, the talent that emerged from the 2014 draft makes it one of the very best classes in history. Aaron Donald was selected with the pick after OBJ, Ryan Shazier went 15th to the Steelers, Zach Martin 16th to the Cowboys, and CJ Mosley 17th to the Ravens. Then there was Brandon Cooks later in the round, and on day 2, DeMarcus Lawrence, Derek Carr, Joel Bitonio, Devontae Adams, and Jarvis Landry all entered the frame. So there you have it, the 2014 draft class. How would you redraft the top 12 picks? Comment below. You would have to imagine several teams would have taken a second look at Aaron Donald inside the top 10, and Devontae Adams surely deserves a place up there too. Thank you for watching The Halftime Show.